So a quick rough and ready guide to movement in Diabotical. Firstly, press escape, go into settings and HUD and drag down the G meter. From there you can click on it and select speed and throttle if it's not already. But no matter which movement direction you go in Diabotical, it will always be 320. The same for diagonals. This is assuming you're not moving your mouse. If you press shift to dash, when standing still it'll go 462. If you're moving at 320, 492. And if going a bit faster, 514. And that's because it's dynamic. And in Diabotical, you can always start pretty much every jump with a dash. Just be aware that if you are shooting and you dash, there's a bit of a penalty. So using it in fights is sometimes a bad thing. But it can be good to quickly change direction or disengage if needed. Now, when holding W, you can move the mouse on the ground and you can see you gain speed. So the whole concept behind circle jumping, which we call the first jump, is to leave the ground as quick as possible. And you can see the percentage value that represents the optimum speed. So as you can see, we can get to about 400. So if we just press W, move the mouse to the right pretty quick, we can leave the ground faster than 320. And we can even carry on the speed afterwards. So if I just hold W and move the mouse, even though I'm going in this direction, I'm gaining speed by just holding W and moving the mouse. Not ideal though, if you're trying to traverse the map. So we add in a strafe key as well, as in addition to directional changes. So if we're strafe jumping to the left, it is W and D to go forward and to the left diagonally, and mouse to the left. And again, you can just practice this on the ground to see how fast you need to be moving the mouse in order to stay at 100% on the first jump. So W and A, mouse to the left, jump. But you can see if we keep moving it fast, we eventually start losing speed. So it's a quick movement to start the jump into slow movement. Now, once we're going, you can see two lines on the G meter, two straight lines and then a dotted line. This is the dead zone, and we start gaining speed once we hit the white line, and the dotted line represents the point at which we've gone too far and we start losing speed. If we're somewhere between this, closer to the dotted line is nearer 0%, and closer to the white straight line is 100%. So for our first jump, W and A, mouse to the left pretty quick, jump. Now we will need to move it slowly to stay near 100% on the white line. And that's your strafe jumping in one direction. It's super simple. This is the easy part. So again, mouse quick, jump, slow, 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 slow. Now the directional change is difficult because if we let go of A and we press D, we have a dead zone before we start gaining speed. And it's this distance, which you'll see in there, and if I'm pressing A, this distance, why you see Quake players doing this with their mouse. It's not because they're gaining speed when they're flicking. As you can see, there's no speed gained. It's only once they hit the white line. So the reason why top players do this, the reason why top players do this is because they're closing the dead zone to be most efficient with their movement. It's very rare that I'm not gaining speed. So I'm just closing this gap, gaining speed, closing this gap with A, gaining speed, closing this gap with D, gaining speed. And it's intuitive because if I'm gaining speed whilst looking here, I then flick the same distance to the right. If I'm gaining speed whilst looking over here, I flick the same distance to the right. And again, I can demonstrate that. If you look at the double arrow, if I press A and D, look at the distance between the line. It's exactly the same. And again, if I'm going quicker, that dead zone increases. I have to move this much to move this much. Now, in this game, you can start every jump with a dash, but even with a dash, if I then press A, I've got a little bit of a dead zone. So once you dash in this game, you press A, move the mouse, then you start gaining speed. D, move the mouse to close the gap on the dead zone, then you start gaining speed. And again, too much, you lose speed. Too little, you don't gain the most efficient amount of speed. It needs to be just right. But don't let anybody ever tell you need to be a movement god in order to be good at this game. It will help you get to items faster. And once you start learning, obviously, grenade jumps and rocket jumps, you can gain speed very quickly, including getting ridiculous height in certain areas. Same for rocket jumps and stuff. But you're never really going to go that fast in a TDM or CTF map. One thing you do need to understand how to do, though, is if I go into Wellspring, is corner clip. Because that, my friends, is probably the most important thing you need to understand. And that is, if you're going a certain speed, you can clip corners. So for this one, if I'm pressing W and D to go diagonally to the right and move the mouse to the right, I can clip this corner. So if I press Shift to do a dodge, W and D, mouse to the right whilst I'm doing it, because I'm going fast enough, I travel through the corner. And that's why the movement in this game feels so snappy. Playing other games like UT, you'd have to walk around this corner. Or if you hit this corner, you would just, come to a stop. But you can carry your speed through. This works for every corner, like this one, for example, as well. I clipped 2 corners there. And again, that's just the same principle as strafe jumping. And this is the easy thing. It's just as long as you understand there's a dead zone, and you understand that flicking your mouse when you're changing direction is just to close the gap before you gain speed, you'll pick it up much quicker. And that's basically it. So I hope that helped. Don't forget, stop by my Twitch stream if you haven't already at twitch.tv/JUSTNVC. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. But this was a very rough and ready introduction to Diabotical movement. Maybe at some point in the future I'll do it properly, but who knows what will change. We are in the first, coming up to the second next week beta weekend. But take care, keep gaming, and I'll see you in the next one.